Born into the vast plains of Kruger, the young lion took his first breath under the watchful eyes of his mother. She was strong, her golden coat gleaming under the sun, her presence a shield against the dangers of the wild. Around him, his siblings, huddled close, their tiny bodies warmed by her embrace. For the first few weeks, they knew nothing but the safety of the hidden den, a sanctuary away from the chaos of the savannah. As he grew, the world expanded. The scent of dry grass, the distant calls of hyenas, and the powerful roars of his father became familiar. He learned to walk, to wrestle with his brothers, to recognize the scent of prey. The pride thrived under the rule of its dominant males, patrolling their territory with unmatched strength. The lion cub lived in a world of order where food was plentiful, and danger was held at bay by the power of his pride. But the balance was fragile. His father, once an unchallenged ruler, was aging. The whispers of change carried through the wind, in the wary gazes of the lionesses, in the tense patrols of the males. And then, one night, the earth trembled with the arrival of intruders. The roars of strange males shattered the night, deep and menacing, a challenge that could not be ignored. His father and the other males rose to meet them, their massive forms disappearing into the darkness. The battle was violent, and the cub watched from a distance as the night filled with growls, snarls, and the sound of bodies colliding. By dawn, the world he knew was gone. His father lay broken, his once powerful body motionless on the blood-stained ground. The remaining males had fled or fallen, and the victors stood triumphant, their towering manes marking them as the new kings. The young lion and his brother were no longer safe. The new rulers would not tolerate the presence of rival males, even cubs. Their mother fought to protect them, but she could not challenge the inevitable. Forced to flee, the brothers left the only home they had ever known. Running into the unknown, with nothing but fear and the bond between them. Hunger struck first. The vast land that once seemed endless now felt empty, stripped of the security, of their pride. They scavenged what little they could find, dodging the shadows of leopards and the laughter of hyenas. Their attempts at hunting ended in failure, their bodies too weak, their inexperience betraying them. The sun burned their skin, the nights chilled them to the bone. Yet even in struggle, something began to change. The fire of survival flickered within them, an instinct as old as the land itself. Each failure taught them something new. They learned to move silently, to strike when the moment was right, to rely on each other as they grew stronger. They had been forced into exile, but exile would not be their end. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It's simple, quick, and helps us keep bringing you amazing content. The journey was merciless. Days stretched into weeks, and hunger became a constant companion. Their bodies, once lean and agile, now bore the weight of exhaustion. They had known the protection of a pride, the certainty of food, the comfort of others. Now the world had turned against them, and survival felt like an impossible task. Doubt crept into the young lion's mind. The scent of stronger males marked every corner of the land, reminding them that they had no claim, no right to be here. Their attempts to take down prey ended in painful failure, their lack of experience punishing them at every turn. The idea of giving up, of simply lying down and letting fate take its course, was never spoken, but it lingered between them. One evening, the sight of a herd of buffalo tested their resolve. They were weak, but the scent of fresh blood the air was maddening. His brother took the lead, eyes locked on an injured calf. The chase began, their bodies moving with desperation. But the attempt was clumsy. The herd retaliated, a massive bull charging with terrifying speed. The young lion barely escaped, the sound of his brother's panicked roar ringing through the night. They had no power here. They were not yet kings. The failures continued, but instinct pushed them forward. They learned to watch, to wait, to take advantage of the moments when others had done the work for them. Carcasses left behind by stronger predators became their salvation. They avoided fights they couldn't win, stealing scraps from hyenas when they were too full to care. Survival was brutal, but they adapted. Time became their teacher. Muscles that were once frail grew stronger. Their once clumsy movements became calculated and precise. The bond between them solidified. They hunted together, fought together, and protected each other from the dangers lurking in the shadows. It was through these trials that they encountered another lone male. He was older, battle-scarred, his mane thick but marked with the signs of past struggles. He did not attack them on sight. Instead, he watched, testing them, waiting to see if they were worth his time. The encounter changed them. The older lion, perhaps once a king who had lost his throne, tolerated their presence, and in doing so, he became an unspoken mentor. He did not feed them or protect them, but by observing his ways, how he moved, how he stalked, how he fought when necessary, they learned. The young lions were no longer the weak cubs who had fled their pride. They were growing into something more. Strength was earned, and soon they would be ready to take what was theirs. The time for scavenging and hiding had passed. The young lions had grown into formidable hunters, their bodies lean but powerful, their instincts sharpened by hardship. They no longer waited for leftovers. They took what they needed. One night, the scent of wildebeest filled the air. The brothers moved silently through the tall grass, their eyes fixed on a lone, weakened bull separated from the herd. The moment was right. Muscles tensed, their bodies coiled like springs. Then they struck. The bull fought back, kicking wildly, but the brothers worked together, their movements practiced and ruthless. Their claws dug deep, their jaws locked onto its throat. The struggle was fierce, but in the end, the wildebeest collapsed beneath their weight. As they tore into their kill, the young lions tasted not just the flesh of victory, but the power that came with it. The fear that had once controlled them was gone. They had crossed the threshold. They were no longer exiles, no longer the weak survivors of a lost pride. They were lions of their own making, and the world would soon know their names. Strength attracted attention. The land was ruled by coalitions, brothers who had fought and conquered, kings who had killed to wear their crowns. The young lions, once outcasts, now stood on the edge of power. But power was never given. It had to be taken. Their first real test came in the form of a challenge. A pair of older males, scarred and territorial, blocked their path near a watering hole. The brothers had two choices: leave and remain wanderers, or fight and claim a piece of the land. The confrontation was brutal. Roars shattered the silence, claws slashed through skin, and fangs sank deep into flesh. Blood soaked the earth as the battle raged. The young lions fought not with experience, but with the desperation of those who had lost everything before. They refused to run. One of the rival males fell first, his body collapsing under the force of the attack. The second, outnumbered and wounded, made a choice. He fled. Victory belonged to the brothers. The watering hole was theirs. It was not yet a kingdom, but it was a beginning. They had allies in the lionesses who depended on strong males to lead. And they had enemies. Other coalitions who would not stand, idly by while new challengers rose. But they had come too far to back down now. The savannah did not favor the weak, and the brothers were weak no longer. Their victory over the rival males had given them a foothold, But a foothold was not enough. The savannah belonged to those who ruled with dominance, and their next challenge loomed ahead. A true pride to call their own. For months, the brothers strengthened their claim, marking their scent along the borders, patrolling the land, and watching as lionesses took notice. But claiming a pride was not as simple as chasing off weaker males. The lionesses would not submit easily. They had seen rulers come and go, and survival depended on aligning with the strongest. It was the Shimangwaneni pride that held their attention. A large, established group of lionesses with cubs sired by aging kings. If the brothers wanted to rule, they would have to take it by force. The time came when the old males, sensing the inevitable, stood their ground. The air was thick with tension as the two sides faced each other beneath the setting sun. The brothers, once mere exiles, now stood as warriors on the brink of battle. They had fought before, but this was different. This was not a fight for survival. This was a fight for legacy. The battle for the Shimangwaneni pride was nothing short of war. The older males, though past their prime, had experience. They knew how to fight, how to anticipate an attack, how to use the terrain to their advantage. The brothers struck first. Their youth gave them speed. Their hunger made them relentless. Claws met flesh. Roars echoed through the plains, and the earth trembled under the weight of giants clashing. One of the old kings went down under the weight of their combined assault, his body crushed beneath their power. The other fought on, refusing to surrender, but he was outmatched. The final blow came swift and merciless, a bite to the throat, a claim to the throne. The lionesses watched in silence. Their cubs, the offspring of the fallen kings, were no longer safe. The brothers knew what had to be done. It was brutal. It was necessary. The old bloodline had to be erased to make way for their own. When the night fell, the Shimangwaneni pride belonged to them. The lionesses accepted them. The land recognized their rule, and the ghosts of their past faded into the wind. They were no longer exiles. They were no longer wanderers. They were kings. With the Shimangwaneni pride under their rule, the brothers had ascended to true dominance. No longer wanderers, no longer outcasts. They were the undisputed kings of their territory. The lionesses, once wary, now moved with them, hunting under their protection. Cubs were born, carrying their bloodline, ensuring their legacy. Their reign extended beyond the pride itself. The scent of their markings carried, for miles, a warning to any male foolish enough to challenge them. Their roars echoed through the night, a declaration that they had carved their place into the heart of Kruger. Seasons passed, and with them came prosperity. Prey was plentiful, and no challengers dared approach. The brothers stood at the peak of their strength, their golden manes thick and flowing, their scars a testament to the battles that had shaped them. But time was an enemy no lion could defeat. Years passed, and the once young warriors began to feel the weight of their reign. Their muscles, still powerful, carried a stiffness that had not been there before. Their reflexes, once razor-sharp, slowed ever so slightly. They had ruled for longer than most, outlasting many challengers, yet the savannah never remained unchanged. New coalitions began to rise, young, strong males seeking to claim what they had built. The cycle was inevitable. Then came the first, real test of their aging rule. A group of nomadic males, lean, hungry, ambitious, crossed into their territory. They were not mere wanderers, they were a threat, just as the brothers had once been. A battle ensued. The brothers fought with all the fury of kings unwilling to relinquish their thrones. The ground shook with their struggle, the clash of claws and fangs painting the land in blood. For the first time in years, the taste of defeat was near. One of the brothers sustained a deep wound, his side torn, his strength waning. The battle was not lost, but it was not won either. The challengers retreated, but they would return, and the kings knew their time was running out. The battle had left its mark. The wounded brother moved slower, his once mighty frame bearing the weight of age and injury. Though they still ruled, the shift was undeniable. The lionesses sensed it. The land itself seemed to whisper that the end was near. For months they held on, defending what was theirs. But the nomadic males were relentless. They returned, stronger, more determined, knowing that time was on their side. The final confrontation came under a blood-red sky, the air thick with the scent of challenge. The brothers fought as they always had, side by side, refusing to surrender. But the years had taken their toll. One of the young challengers lunged, his fangs tearing through the wounded brother's flank. He fell, roaring in pain, his strength finally failing him. The other brother, though uninjured, was outnumbered. The battle had already been decided. Knowing they could not win, he did what no king wishes to do. He turned and fled. His brother lay behind him, his fate sealed. The land they had ruled, the pride they had built, was no longer theirs. The kings had fallen. Days passed, and the lone survivor wandered the land that had once been his kingdom. He did not roar. He did not mark territory. He was a ghost, a shadow of the lion he had once been. Some say he sought refuge near the Hamilton Pride, seen only in glimpses, his golden mane now dull, his eyes distant. Others believe he perished in solitude, fading into the wilderness where no man or beast could witness his final breath. But legends do not die so easily. The lions of Kruger still walk paths once ruled by the LEUBROM males. Their offspring may yet roam the savannah, carrying their blood, their strength, their spirit. Their story remains, a tale of survival, dominance, and the inevitable cycle of life. They were born as cubs, shaped by exile, forged in battle, and crowned as kings. And though time claimed their thrones, their legacy lives on, whispered through the roaring winds of the African plains. The LEUBRON males will never be forgotten.